Welcome to #Wednesdays Weekly, a weekly information session in collaboration with the voluntary sector and public sector partners. Today's session is on how to connect with your volunteers, and our hosts are Lisa from Tameside Action Together and myself, Laura, from Rochdale Action Together. Over to you, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. This is my first attempt at a Wednesday Weekly. Feeling a little bit nervous, so bear with me. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you all see that? Yeah, brilliant. Right, okay, so today, our Wednesday Weekly is connecting with your volunteers. And as you are all aware, we had Volunteers Week 2021, the 1st to the 7th of June, but Action Together have made the decision to do a whole month of Volunteers Week. So it's the month of community. And on this week, our theme is connecting with volunteers. So today we're going to be chatting about welcoming back your volunteers and greeting new ones, refreshing and updating your roles, your volunteer roles, making it easy for new volunteers to join your organisation or community group, and ways to ensure your volunteers feel valued and supported, and other ways you can recognise and reward your volunteers. This is a really informal session. If you do have questions, feel free to ask them. It's just what's worked for us, what's worked well for us, what's worked well for some of the other charities and community groups that we've spoken to, and the feedback that we've had from volunteers that has helped us put this together today. So, welcoming back volunteers. You may have been in a position now where you're going to reopen your services, open your doors to the public, and you're going to be welcoming back your volunteers. I do appreciate that there's some organisations that remained open throughout the whole of the pandemic, so you're not necessarily welcoming back volunteers. But what we found is, for the most part, that a lot of people couldn't volunteer during the pandemic and that have had to wait. So the conversations around welcoming back your volunteers and how you would do that. And one of the big things that we've heard from our volunteers, from feedback, is around communication. And keeping in contact with your volunteers, and letting them know step by step what to expect in the coming weeks, in line with the government guidelines, and the easing of the restrictions. And most of the charities that we've spoken to have said that their priority is welcoming back their existing volunteers rather than recruiting new volunteers. Because that does go a long way to helping to ensure that your volunteers feel valued and supported, and that, you know, that they've got a role to go back to. For some people, volunteering is, you know, their whole life. It's very meaningful for them, and not being able to do that has had huge impact on people's lives. We know from not being able to go into our jobs, into our offices every day, what effect that's had on us. And if we've got volunteers that volunteer because for the social aspect, and then they found themselves at home, this is a day that they've been looking forward to. So yeah, our recommendation is that you make a big fuss of your volunteers, but make it very, very clear what the volunteer can expect when they come back, because obviously things are going to be looking very different, with, you know, all the safety measures that we need to put in place, changes to our volunteer roles, because it is unlikely that someone would be coming back to the exact same type of volunteer role. I'll give you an example. The charity shops for a number of different charities across all three boroughs are welcoming people back, but in smaller numbers, wearing face masks, limited number of people being allowed in the shop. And people, and what we're finding is that some of the volunteers are worried. So it's about alleviating some of those concerns that they may have well in advance. And yeah, we'll carry on, but we'll talk about the ways that you can do that in a little while. So yeah, welcoming new volunteers. You may be in a position where you want to recruit new volunteers. And again, it's about making sure that your processes are in place to welcome new people and to reassure people that are coming to volunteer with your organisation that, again, you've thought about COVID and all of the safety measures and what are you going to do? Because it's one of the biggest questions we get asked, actually, where it comes to volunteering in a community centre or meeting people face to face in public. If you're not volunteering from home, one of the first questions that we will get asked when we're having our telephone appointments with people is, what safety measures have they put in place to protect me while I'm volunteering? So it's worth thinking about that, even if it's, if it's a face-to-face befriending appointment. Are you allowed to go into people's houses? Do you have to wear a face mask if you go and meet somebody for a cup of tea in a town centre? What's your guidance around travel and getting on a bus, or having somebody in your car and things like that? You want to be able to have all that information for the volunteer. And yes, some of it is common sense, but what we don't want is that the volunteer needs to go and find that information for themselves. Now, Action Together do every week, actually, and it updates every week the guidance around COVID and reopening and restarting your services. So you're welcome to join any of those. They're every Wednesday morning. But yeah, keeping up to date with all of the guidance so that you can trickle that down to your volunteers. It definitely goes a long way in helping people feel more at ease and more likely to come and volunteer with you. But yeah, so what every volunteer will want when they start volunteering with you is an induction. If it's volunteering in a building, showing them around. Where do they make a cup of tea? Where are the toilets? Where's the fire exit? Where do they meet if there's a fire outside? Talking to them about travel expenses, if you're going to reimburse for that. That's another big question that we get asked. Does the charity, does the community group reimburse travel and other out-of-pocket expenses? So it's worth thinking about that. And yeah, having a clear, defined role written down, something that they can take away, where they know exactly what is expected of them and what they can expect volunteering with you. So we can move on. So yeah, refreshing and updating your volunteer roles. We're encouraging all of the groups that we work with to have a look at all your volunteer roles, especially if you've got some listed on our website, on the Action Together website with your volunteer manager account. It's worth, you can get in contact with us and we can help you with that, by the way, but it's worth having a look and having a read through and making sure it's as up to date as it possibly can be. I've noticed that there's quite a few that are short and sweet, and that's great because volunteers don't want to read through reams and reams of information when they're choosing a volunteer role. But I would focus on the section where it says tasks and responsibilities for the volunteer. So what are they expected to do as part of their volunteer role? And even down to how much time you would ask for a volunteer to commit to that role, and and things like that. But yes, have a look. If they're on our website, please have a look and update them. What we found actually is, so a lot of the telephone, the face-to-face befriending roles have moved to telephone befriending, and now they're going to move back to face-to-face. So it needs to reflect that. And now if you wanted to do, and some charities have done this, you could have 2 roles on our website, one that's face-to-face, one that's telephone based, one that's home based, and we can deactivate as needed, or you can update the role that is on there just to say, this is, for the time being, this is how we're going to be carrying out, this is how you're going to be carrying out this role, this is where you're going to be volunteering from, this is what you're going to be doing. Some charities have gone on and realised that that they can split some of their volunteer roles up even further. So, for example, like a grounds maintenance and a caretaker role of a community centre. I've worked with a local group in Tameside actually that have split that down into gardening and litter picking, and somebody that can open and shut the building and things like that. So it's broken down even further. Because what we are finding at the moment, especially over the last 18 months, is we've had more people than ever before register to volunteer. And yes, that is because of the pandemic and when people were made furloughed, or even sadly lost their jobs. And we had a whole new type of person come and volunteer with us as well. So people that were in employment, people that, with higher levels of education, people with lots of experience. I've recruited a magistrate as a Miles and Smiles driver, and they don't necessarily want to use, the skills that they've got as a job. They just want to volunteer. They just want to give back. They want to do good. So it's worth thinking about that, and thinking that a lot of people have gone back to work and they are still hoping to volunteer. So our recommendation is have a think about, a little bit outside the box, I suppose. Can people volunteer on an evening and on a weekend with your organisation? Can they do micro volunteering? Have you got any one-off opportunities? One-off opportunities, a day delivering care packages to lonely and isolated people, doing a gardening day, doing a litter pick day. They have been massively popular over the last year or so. People can pick and choose what they want to do. Even like fundraising events, which before COVID weren't necessarily the most popular type of volunteer role. Now we're finding, because it's a one-off, because you can do one day and then that's fine. You can come back and do another day for another event. Really, really popular. So it's worth thinking about, and being able to volunteer small amounts of time. So maybe a couple of hours once a week. So it's definitely worth having a think about that. I do appreciate that some charities, some community groups operate within office hours, your 9 to 5, and that those roles need to stay within that time frame. But be aware that there are a lot of people that are looking to volunteer outside of that time frame. But yeah, it's always worth having a look at what you've already got. And if you want to add more, or edit what you've got, then, and you're not sure what you're doing, you can get in touch with the team and we can always talk you through it, and make use of those volunteer manager accounts. I mean, we are looking at potentially running some more volunteer manager account training, if for you to be able to utilize those accounts. The idea being that your opportunities are on the Action Together website, and then when somebody expresses an interest in one of your roles, you will get a notification telling you to log in, and the volunteers' information will be there on the screen for you: name, email address, phone number, the date that they expressed an interest, and the role that they've chosen. And you can update that record to say that their application is in process. There's a little box there that you can put where you're up to. You know, I've given this person a phone call. I've sent an application form out. I've done an interview, and then when they are actively volunteering, you can change their status to actively volunteering. So it's handy for you as well, especially if you have a large number of volunteers coming through each year, and it'll help you keep track. But again, if anyone wants to have a conversation about that, then let us know. We can even come out and sit with you and show you how it all works. It's been a while really since we've had a real review of that actually. So if anyone's got any feedback on how those accounts work, and you've got any suggestions to make them work better, then let us know. Okay. So yeah, volunteers needed, your recruitment process. So again, this is feedback that we've had from volunteers over the last, well, during the pandemic really. What we found is, so on the very first day of lockdown, Action Together were inundated with people registering to volunteer, people saying, I want to help, I want to do something to support people during this time. And what they wanted was to click a button, fill a form in and start volunteering the day after. And in some roles that is possible, you know. We did the doorstep donation scheme. We do it in Tameside, we do it in Rochdale. And once somebody's registered, it's a case of just giving them the pack and their ID badge and then off they go. What the feedback that we've had is they've registered with us, they filled that the details in on our registration form, and then they've been referred on to you for you to make contact with them. The frustration is having to fill in more than one form and not being able to start volunteering as quickly as they would like. Now, again, we do appreciate, especially with some of the larger charities or charities that work with vulnerable people, or you need to have a DBS check, that does take some time. And we have explained that, we always explain that to potential volunteers. But if there is a way that you can simplify your recruitment process, we would highly recommend that you do that to get people through as quickly as possible and get them started. The quicker you do it, the less likely they are to lose interest or look at something else. So we do something called passporting volunteers. Now, what that has involved is our application form, our registration form rather, is a little bit more in depth, and we ask for a little bit more information. And if you're happy with this, when we refer a volunteer onto you, we could provide you with the information that we've collected, with a view that would speed up the process for any new volunteers coming through. But yeah, having a look at your application forms, having a look at the way you do your DBS checks. We've gone from doing the paper version of the DBS check, which can take, you know, minimum 6 weeks, to doing them online, and they come back within a day, 2 at the most, doing them online, and it's not costing us any more money than doing the paper version and sending them off to get processed. So it's definitely worth having a look at that. And the same with references. Now, there are going to be people that are going to be able to provide you with 2 references, references from an employer or, you know, another professional. But there are a lot of people that can't do that, people that have been out of work for a long period of time, people that where they've not lived in this country, you know, for very long, and that are going to struggle to be able to provide references. And we find that's a real barrier for some people, and they feel that if they haven't got that information to put on an application form, that they can't volunteer. So if you're happy to accept character references, what we say for our character references is that you've known the person for at least a year, you're not related to them, you don't live at the same address, then we're happy to accept character references. Worth thinking about, definitely. So yeah, it's all part of your role description as well. Putting in your role description what you plan to do in regards to the recruitment process. Will the volunteer need to undertake any training? Volunteers love training. It's a real selling point. Anything that they can add to their CV, anything that's going to make them more employable, or even just a really good learning opportunity. If you've got training, let us know, let the volunteers know. Because yeah, like I said, it makes roles more appealing. Now, I will mention at this point, so what we've been doing is a series called Meet the Charities. And the idea of those is very similar to this Zoom meeting. We publicise your charity, your community group, and your volunteer roles, and we invite people to come along and listen to you talking about your volunteer roles and about the work that your organisation does. Really, really informal, really chatty. You can do a presentation if you want to do. You can simply talk if you want to do. You can invite one of your volunteers along to come and talk to the group, and then at the end people can ask questions of you, and then what we tend to do is send up a sort of follow-up email out with all the information about the roles, about application, anything you can think of really, even links to your websites, your Facebook pages, and what are the next steps if anyone wants to volunteer. What we've also been doing, because those meetings have actually proven very, very popular, is, and you can have a look, they're all on our YouTube channel, Action Together's YouTube channel, Meet the Charity videos. So I've been doing them where I meet with a volunteer manager or a volunteer, and I do a very, very informal interview. Basically, I ask you all the questions that I think a volunteer would want to know. So, you know, what does the role involve? How much time is expected? Do you pay travel expenses? What sort of training is on offer? I've got a criminal record. Will that stop me volunteering? All those types of things. And then when somebody talks to us during a telephone appointment, or hopefully in the near future, a face-to-face appointment, what I've been doing is I send them the video. And then it's almost like they get to meet you before they get to meet you in person. And it answers all the questions that they have, proven really, really successful. So there is that opportunity there for anybody that wants to do one of those videos. Like I say, really informal. We'll do it on Zoom. Although if you wanted to do it in person, we can always bring a camera and, you know, film you and have a chat. So yeah, that's that. Just making it easy as possible. Easy, transparent, and as quick as possible to get those people into their roles and volunteering. So, helping volunteers to feel valued and supported. I think this is your bit, Laura. Laura doesn't talk as much as I do, so you'll be happy.
Laura doesn't talk as much, so I'll probably just fire through mine.
Right. Tell me
Lisa.
when you want me to click the next bit, Laura.
Yes, no problem. So yeah, keeping in touch and making your volunteers feel valued and supported. We're just going to go through a few ways you can do that and a few ways that have helped Action Together that have been really successful. So next slide, please. So this is great, and Lisa's great putting this telephone on. I think it's great. But yeah, telephone, #1 communication preference for quite a lot of volunteers, and I find the telephone works very well for me, and anyway in my role. So with our volunteers in particular, when we've placed a volunteer, for example, our street ambassadors, which is the doorstep donations, or the community warehouse in Rochdale, what we offer to them volunteers is a weekly sort of monthly wellbeing call, This can be at a time and a date to suit them. We'll book them in the diary, give them a call. It's just a general to see how they're doing. And then obviously if they've got any questions or concerns, they can raise it there. But it's more of an in-depth sort of chat. It's not just about the volunteering role, it's about themselves in general, how they are, how things are, you know, in their personal life as well. If there's any further issues we can help them with. So making that time to give your volunteers a telephone call is definitely worth doing. It's feedback from our volunteers is that they love having them monthly calls. Some volunteers, they know they have the option if they need another call, they can contact us or send us an email and we'll arrange an extra call for them. It's not a problem at all. So yes, very worthwhile. Make sure you've got a bit of time in there to give your volunteers a call and just see how they're doing. Next slide.
And I mean, even with welcoming back your volunteers, what the feedback we've had from some of the charities, especially the larger charities, is that picking up the phone to have a chat with the volunteers, even if they're not planning on coming back straight away, having a phone call with them, especially if they're isolated, they're lonely themselves, goes a long way. And this is something that you can get other volunteers involved in, especially if you've got a large number of volunteers to call. It's befriending, isn't it? And picking up that one-to-one phone call with somebody, it makes people feel valued. So yeah, number one, it's very simple, just picking up the phone and having a chat with somebody. Moving on.
On to text messages, another very successful way of communicating with Found. So we use something, I'm yet to use it yet, but I know Alderman Tameside have been using it. We use something called Text Local. So we can add our volunteers in groups to this site, and we can send group messages or individual messages, and they also have an option to reply. So for example, if you have, say, a role coming that you need to fill in urgently, you can send out a text message. And obviously you can get instant replies, and then you can follow that up again with a phone call. Or if it's just to book an appointment with a volunteer, if you can send them a text message and it gets there really quick, very easy. And most people do have phones that receive text messages, so text message is a really good option. Again, yeah.
Most people have said that they're more likely to read a text message or respond to a text message than an email. Yeah, you know, because if you're anything like me, I get hundreds of emails and mine get lost. And yeah, people are missing out on information, whereas it goes straight to the phone. You could even tell them that you've sent them an email in a text message. And the good thing about Text Local is you can send a mass text message out really, really easily. It's just a case of uploading. I was shown how to do it actually a couple of weeks ago. Takes a couple of minutes to upload a spreadsheet worth of contact information to Text Local, and then to send a text message, it's just a case of just typing the words in and then off it goes. Really worth doing, actually. Moving on.
Email, again, another very popular, well, it's a very popular way of communicating, it's a very easy way of communicating, especially for us, we're at our laptops all day. So to send an email to a volunteer is very easy, but some volunteers do work, and obviously they won't get a chance to check their personal emails till sort of evenings or weekends. So again, send an email. It's good to send a message or follow up with a phone call if you don't get a response. But again, most people do have access to an email address, and they will eventually check their emails and reply. But yeah, you can put a lot of information into an email, attachments, etc. So the more detail you need, I'd recommend sending an email. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So volunteer page on Facebook. I think all Action Togethers have a volunteer page. I know we do. I know Tameside does. So our volunteer page was launched throughout COVID, and right at the beginning of COVID, we used to send like a twice monthly sort of wellbeing newsletter out just for our volunteers. But we found that wasn't getting much uptake because that would go to their email addresses and it just wasn't getting much click-throughs whatsoever. So then we decided to take it onto a Facebook page, which now has 300 plus members on it. It's a very, very well used tool. Everyone nowadays are on Facebook. So our Facebook page is a place to volunteers to chat to us, to put any concerns on there, to put any updates on there. And again, from our side, we can put the same on there to volunteers, any updates of training, any new roles that have come in, anything we need the volunteers to know, we can put straight onto Facebook, and we know it will get checked. Same with the WhatsApp group. In Rochdale, we don't have a WhatsApp group for our volunteers. I'm not sure if you're doing Tameside. Lisa.
No, but it's a tool that a lot of the smaller groups use.
Yeah, it is. I know some.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know some groups in Rochdale, they do use it, and it's very easy just to send. Obviously, quite a lot of people on WhatsApp. We have our own personal WhatsApp group for work, and we're on it all the time. It's just quick, snappy messages. It's very easy to reply, and it goes to the whole group as well. So it's as effective as a text message.
I mean, I've got WhatsApp. I include it in my because I've got a work mobile. I include it in my email signature. So if someone send me a message or a photograph or a video, because I've had volunteers send me videos, it's the quickest and easiest way to do it. Doesn't cost them anything.
No,
it's safe.
Yeah, because through this month of community, obviously we had a few of our volunteer managers did videos for our volunteers, sort of promoting their roles, and that was sent via WhatsApp. It was just a quicker, easier option, because some larger files you can't sort of attach to emails, it won't let you, but WhatsApp is great for that. So yeah, you need to be in, if you have like a group of volunteers, you want to sort of aim something out, get a WhatsApp group set up for them. It's very, very successful, WhatsApp.
So the next one, so this is Action Together's Tameside, Action Together Tameside. We call it the Action Together Tameside Neighbourhood Volunteers page. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. You're welcome to join that, by the way. It's not, we invite volunteer managers as well as volunteers to join. And the reason that we set it up was because we wanted to be able to be in touch with as many people as we possibly can and give them as many options. Like Laurie said, a lot of people are on Facebook, but some aren't. But this is a really, really good space for the volunteers to talk to one another, ask advice. We can share opportunities, training opportunities. We promote other charities and the work that they do, anything really. We've got photos and videos on here. It's been a really, really useful tool. And actually, and again, this is something that's come from the pandemic, because before the pandemic, this wouldn't have necessarily worked. We've all got Action Together accounts. We don't use our personal Facebook accounts. So if I talk to anybody in this group, it shows my Action Together logo and my name. And it's another way for volunteers to, if they've got a question, they can send you a message in through Messenger. I've had groups talk to me, referral agencies talk to me through this. I've been able to share information in other groups all over Facebook. I have to say, it's probably one of the best things that we've done, using Facebook this way. Everything's online at the moment, and this has proven to be one of the most successful tools. We've reached so many new people, and our existing volunteers have stayed with us throughout the last 18 months. I can put an information on there, like what was most recent. I need 10 drivers to help me deliver some Easter surprise boxes for some people that lived in Droylsden. I had those 10 volunteers and another 15 on top of that within 20 minutes. That would never happen before. So this is a tool I recommend that you all use if you can do. But yeah, keep your personal account separate and set up a work Facebook account if you can, and then link it, because this is a group. It's not a page, it's a group. So we've got Action Together's main page, and this is a group that is attached to it, as is the one for Oldham and as is the one for Rochdale. But yeah, you're welcome to join any of those, and if you want, you can post in them. We allow anyone to post in the groups to potentially recruit new volunteers or just promote your services, anything like that. And again, if anyone wants any help setting up a group, I can help with that. or setting up an account. I feel fairly confident doing this. I've done it for a few other organisations, so the offer is there if you want to get in touch. Yeah, I'll move on. E-bulletin, yeah.
Yeah, volunteering e-bulletin. So we in Rochdale, we don't have just a general volunteering e-bulletin. We have just our 2 weekly one that goes out. But I know Tameside, Oldham maybe do have a volunteering specific e-bulletin. Now everything and anything can go in an e-bulletin, anything to do with volunteering, and anything you want your volunteers to know, news, thank yous, any training, any sort of updates you want your volunteers to know, if there's any roles you need volunteers for. So yeah, it's a great tool. Like I said before, we did start trying to do a sort of a volunteering wellbeing one at the beginning of COVID, but it didn't have that much uptake. But we are looking into maybe we could do just a volunteering specific e-bulletin, even if it's just once a month it goes out. That's something we are looking into at Rochdale. But no, I believe that they are very well taken, and people do look at the e-bulletins. I know quite a lot of you do have general sort of organisational e-bulletins that we receive and you send out, but maybe think about doing a volunteer specific one. It's a way to get new volunteers interested, it's a way for them to see what you're doing and the great work that you are doing, and you're more likely to get more volunteers that way also.
Yeah. And you can always send us information to include in our e-bulletins. I mean, I send mine, I do mine every week. It goes out on a Thursday, that's for Tameside. The reason I send it out weekly is just because the information is changing weekly and I get new opportunities to advertise each week. I do an organisation of the week sort of thing. The spotlight is on, and I also put in new opportunities as well as training, and they are being read, which is good. We check the stats on ours. We send them via our database using something called Mosaic. But funnily enough, we've because I like to keep mine quite bright and attractive with photographs, but we've had feedback actually that having loads of images in your e-bulletins, especially if someone's reading it on a phone, makes the e-bulletin or a screen reader, makes them very, very long, and people tend to disengage when they're very long. So short and snappy, to the point, links to your website, because you'll always want people to go to your website. If it is a volunteer specific update, letting them know when you're reopening it, letting them know what you're doing, what your plans are. It helps people feel like they're being kept in the loop, even if they're not going to be returning. Success stories, happy stories, this has gone well this week, and letting people know, because it's all been doom and gloom, hasn't it, over the last year, and I'm getting fed up of opening Facebook and opening my emails and just seeing negativity. So this is a real good way to spread some joy. But yeah, definitely when you're putting them together, definitely think about the formatting of them and how it will look on different devices. I've been doing my e-bulletin now for years and years and years, and I even read my emails on my phone and it appears differently, and it does make it a lot longer. So if you can reduce the number of images that you put in them, then that it does help.
Virtual coffee mornings. Now I know Tameside do a coffee and a catch up, and I know they're very successful. Everyone loves getting together, usually in person, to have a coffee and a cake, things like that together. But maybe think about doing one on Zoom. So have a bit of time put aside each week or each month for your volunteers that they can join. They can have a coffee and a chat, just an informal session with you. Just to bring anything to light that they need to talk about. I know with the community warehouse, what we do, we have a monthly sort of wellbeing Zoom session. It's usually in the evening, and we've had people turn up there with the tea, they're eating the food, they're having a glass of beer, this sort of thing, and it's just a general chat. And there's so much laughter and so much talk going on. It's like you are in person, but you're not. So definitely some sort of It doesn't have to be a coffee morning, some sort of session though, that you can get together with your volunteers, just, just a general chat, how you doing, have a coffee and a cake. Hopefully going forward, we can start doing this sort of thing in person. But yeah, definitely worth considering if you don't do something like that already.
Yeah. We do them for the volunteer coordinators in Tameside, and again, feedback from other organisations is the smaller the group, the better. Gives everybody a chance to have a chat. It's difficult, isn't it, when you're on a screen and being able to talk. But yeah, these have proven to be really, really beneficial, and people enjoy being able to see people. I mean, I know you'd rather see people in person, but it's the next best thing. And again, just being able to chat to people. These are just some of the tools that you can use. I know that, you've got Teams, you've got Zoom, like we're on now, but there are other free tools if you want to have a look at them. Skype, Facebook Live, all sorts of different things. Action Together. So Action Together, that photograph there. It's about wellbeing packs actually, and we've got a wellbeing focus group that thinks about Action Together staff and volunteers, and things to think about while we're at home. It's very, very easy, isn't it? I know a lot of people have said that they find it difficult to switch off, getting the home and work-life balance. So everyone at Action Together was sent a little pack there with tea and hot chocolate and some biscuits and a little card in it. And that bee thing there is actually got seeds embedded in it. So you could plant some flowers. I gave it to my youngest son, who's 5. He absolutely loved it. But that made me feel, I love that. Absolutely love that, getting that through.
I did, but can I just say, I didn't get to have the biscuits. My son did.
Yeah, my kids did, so didn't get lucky.
Also, the little bee thing, I thought it just fell off the card, so I didn't realise there were seeds inside, so I had to go digging it back out of the rubbish bin afterwards. But then we did make use of them.
Well, it's little things like this. I'm not saying that you've got to put a pack together for all of you, every single volunteers, but something as simple as, sending them a card in the post, or if you could send them a mug of tea or something and say, go and have a relax. That for me, because we've all worked really hard, haven't we? And we all feel a little bit burnt out. And that was almost like we were given, because Liz, our CEO, had signed our cards. It was almost like she'd given us permission to have a break, which I know is ridiculous. But when you're working at home, it's just it's all changed, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, go on, Laura.
I think this one was...
Oh, is this me?
Yeah.
Sorry. We did plan this yesterday, who was talking.
We did.
So one of the other things that we've been sending out to volunteers is, that aren't active at the moment, is some tools that they can... got a list of mental health activities, things that they can do to help them improve their own health and well-being, opportunities to learn, links with local colleges that have given us access to free distance learning courses, offers from other charities, to engage in some activities, arts and crafts, gardening, going for a nature walk, things like that. So it's about, someone might not necessarily be able to volunteer right now, so it's providing them with other tools that they can engage in. Again, I've sent this out to our volunteers. They've loved it. It's things that they can do, and it shows that you care. They might not be volunteering with you just yet, but you're saying, I care about your well-being, and these things are really, really useful. They're free. I have got that list. If anybody wants, if you want that information, I found, what I did was I did a training e-bulletin where I went and I found loads of free training that I thought was suitable for all volunteers, things that you can do in your spare time from home, absolutely free. Some of them you can get qualifications. And yeah, I mean, it's 5 ways to well-being, isn't it? That's one of them, learning. And I know a lot of people in Tameside have taken up the offers of free training that they can do from home. So yeah, if you want that information, I'll send it out to everybody that's here today. So yeah, another thing, it might be that someone decides that they don't want to return to your organisation to volunteer, or the roles that you have might not necessarily be suitable. The changes that you've put in place might mean that role is no longer appropriate. So, I mean, there are a number of things you can do. You can have a look at either adapting your role, or maybe looking at finding something different for that person to do within your organisation, or you can put them in touch with us at Action Together, and we can work with someone to help them choose another volunteer role, or even getting involved in some of the community activities. We've got a directory on our website, a community activity directory. It's constantly being updated. It could be that just for the time being, someone just joins a group, fulfills a hobby, or takes up a learning opportunity. But yeah, sometimes you will find that that volunteers are not able to return, and please send them our way and we can help. So this is another way to recognise your volunteers and reconnect. I don't know whether you're all aware, but we did this a couple of years ago, and we've decided to do it again. So it's the Volunteer Celebration Fund, and you can apply for a grant of up to £500 to celebrate your volunteers. Basically, you've got until 31st of December to spend it. And as long as it meets at least one of one of these things, recruit, retain, reconnect, or reward, I can send the information out for this as well. You can apply for that money. So a lot of people are looking to reward their volunteers. For example, Action Together, have I got one hand? Yeah, we sent out postcards, and I don't know whether you can see that on my tiny little screen, and some pins that say we act together volunteers, and we've sent that out to over 1,000 people. Some other charities, some of the groups are looking at taking their volunteers out for a meal when they're allowed to do that. Others have bought gift vouchers or boxes of chocolates, or anything really, anything that you want to do. This is a really good way to reconnect with people as well, sending them a little gift. People have bought merchandise, for want of a better word. You could buy T-shirts for your charity, you could buy flyers, any promotional opportunities. Some others are looking to recruit new volunteers, so they'll be spending that money on that. If you can tick a few of those boxes with your application, then that's great. You do need to be a member of Action Together to get the £500. Otherwise, it's up to £200. And if you're not sure whether you're a member, just let us know and we can have a look on our system for you. But yeah, definitely apply for that. On the 23rd of June next week, we're doing a Meet the Funder. So that's next Wednesday. Yeah, next Wednesday. Information is all on the website, but again, I'll send you the details if you want to book a place on that. So it's coming along, just finding out more about this fund, and what you can spend it on. There is an application form. It's fairly short, and it's just around what you plan on spending the money on. This proved to be really, really successful the first time we did it. And lots of photographs and videos and of everything that the money paid for. So yeah, get creative really, and think about what you want to do. And you have got time. We're not limiting it to this month. The deadline is the end of July. to apply for it as well. So definitely have a look at that. So yeah, some of the ways that you can say thank you, things that have worked for us. We've done contacted volunteers that have been with us and been fantastic volunteers. We've done videos with them. It's literally they're stood in the gardens holding the phones up saying, my name's Lisa and I'm an Action Together volunteer and this is my role and this is what I've got out of it and how much I enjoy it. And yeah, they've been really successful. Shouting about them on Facebook, on Twitter, saying thank you volunteers, you've been amazing. Tony, have you got your hand up?
I certainly have.
Yeah.
Just check your chat box because Paula Smithson had a question.
Oh, right, okay, I can't see. Laura, can you see the chat box?
Yeah, we're going to do questions at the end though, because I have to stop recording for the questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm nearly done. This is the last slide, promise.
So a few minutes, I have to go for my next one in a few minutes.
All right, okay, yeah. Certificates to say thank you, badges, all sorts of things. Any way you can say thank you, and you can do it publicly. It makes people feel appreciated. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's going to be some people that don't want to have their photograph plastered on Facebook, but yeah. And just, you just saying thank you. So just saying thank you, it people feel appreciated. You don't have to wait for Volunteers Week to do that. Saying thank you and saying, job well done, makes people feel appreciated. But yeah, that is the end. I am going to stop talking, stop sharing. Am I back?
Yes.
Yes, you're back.
So Paula's question was, is the celebration fund only for volunteers in this area? Because her volunteers are around the country in various places.
If you've got volunteers in either Tameside, Oldham or Rochdale or all of them, and you operate in any of those areas, you don't have to be based in any of those